300. That's right, Ukraine was able to liberate more than 300 settlements in Kharkiv region alone in just 1 week. But you know what? Yet another major battle in the east is coming up soon. In addition to that, Ukraine is looking to open a third front in Zaporozhye region in the nearest future. And Russia, being completely devastated by Ukraine's counteroffensive, has reportedly stopped sending its troops to Ukraine. And practically Russia right now is begging for the negotiations, but it is now Ukraine that does not want to talk. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's go straight to the point and talk a little bit more about Ukraine's counteroffensive in the east. As you can see from this video, which came to us from Vovchansk, these are literally the first minutes of Ukrainians entering the city. And then going a little bit more to the south, we can see this video from Chkalovsky, which basically showing that Russians, while retreating, left everything behind. Going now more to the east, we can see a video from Kupiansk. And right here we can see the consequences of street fights in this city. And as we go even more to the south, this is when it starts to get even more interesting. Because in our first video from Svetohirsk, we can see the abandoned positions by Russian forces. And even one of the biggest infiltrators of Russia, Denis Pushilin himself, he acknowledged that the situation around Svetohirsk is extremely complicated. But okay, the reason why this specific area is so interesting is that in case Ukraine is successful, this allows them the opportunity to liberate everything to the north of Donetsk. And right now we're going to talk just about that. And so our first video comes to us from Bogorodichne. And as you can see right here, which is also confirmed by this map, this small city was liberated by Ukrainians. But then we have even more important reports is that Ukraine is being relatively successful in liberating Liman. And the reason why retaking Liman is so important for Ukraine is that in case they're successful, they will be able to fortify their positions to the east of Seversky Donetsk river, which eventually provides them much easier access to the east of their own country. In addition to that, and it is not yet reflected by this map, there are several reports saying that Ukrainians were able to liberate this small city of Yempil. And finally, even the Russian propagandists themselves that are complaining that Russia was not able to stop Ukrainians, and as a result, Ukrainians entered Bilohirivka. And I mean, in case all of this is true and later confirmed by the Ukraine itself, is that they were able to liberate Liman, Yempil and Bilohirivka, this opens them the direction for the third major battle in the east, the battle for Kreminna. And right now I will be explaining why this battle is so important, but before this, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel if you like this style of daily updating. And to begin with, here is the statement by the head of Luhansk region, Sergei Gaidai. He's basically saying that according to his intelligence, Russian forces already left the city of Kreminna, but Ukrainians did not fully retake the city yet. And same as him, Russians also realized the importance of this city. That is why they started bringing their military vehicles and equipments to defend it. But if you remember from my previous episode, so many Russian forces in fact started retreating even deeper into Luhansk region, I mean in this direction. Which basically means they will try to protect Kreminna, but most likely they will have not enough forces. Because on the other hand, we have the Ukrainian army which is getting closer from the north and from the west to this city. And the reason why Kreminna is so important, like mentioned previously, is that in case Ukrainians are successful, this opens them the direction to liberate east even further. Because most likely after losing this key city, the majority of Russians will simply retreat further to the south, which will allow Ukrainians to liberate the majority of the territory to the north with little to no resistance. But hold on a second, it looks like that Ukrainians are very dedicated to liberating this territory. But at the same time, what about Donetsk? And you know what? Several reports claim that Ukrainians started targeting Donetsk as well. Because according to a very questionable person who still still in some way cheers for Ukraine, Ukrainians are now concentrating in this area. And according to him and some other Russian propagandists, the major attacks for this Ukrainian group will be against Vuhledar and Mariinka. And I mean, right now it is obviously way too early to tell, but looks like that the end goal of this group will be to liberate Mariupol, which, to be honest, might be confirmed by the willingness of Ukrainians to open the third front in Zaporozhye, but we'll talk about this very soon. And so right now, most likely, the main goal of this Ukrainian group will be to capture the road between Mariinka and Donetsk, which theoretically, in case they are successful, will allow them to encircle at least partially the city of Donetsk. And speaking about Donetsk, right here we have the video of one of the most recent explosions inside the city. In addition to that, according to several reports, at this very moment there is many Ukrainian drones circulating around Donetsk. And most likely the reason why they are doing this is that they are collecting the intelligence data. And to sum up all the action in the east, here is the video from Luhansk where there is a Russian air defense system in action. And by the way, if you want to see way more footage from today's episode, especially the one which I was not able to use, please consider checking my Patreon. All the proceeds will be donated to Ukraine, and you can find all the useful links down below. Okay, and before we talk about Ukraine potentially opening the third front in Zaporozhye, let's briefly talk about the response of Russians in the east. First of all, we have this article about a Russian prisoner of war who is saying that whenever Russians were retreating from Kharkov, all the officers and generals simply abandoned them. And I mean, it's pretty much the same thing that happened in Kherson in the previous month, so no surprise here. And then we have this video from Kharkov region where Russians were allegedly using either white phosphorus or thermite while retreating. And even though they were able to buy themselves a little bit of time, they still abandoned the majority of their military equipment. And as you can see from this video, all of this equipment came into possession of Ukrainians. Then we have this video about the explosion in Kharkov thermal power plant, but most likely you already seen it. And in this video right here, you can see the consequences of this attack. Alright, time to talk about another major point of this video, is that Ukrainians are looking possibly to open a third front in Zaporozhye region. According to Russian infiltrator in Zaporozhye region, Vasily Rogov, Ukrainians are bringing so many military vehicles, equipment and soldiers closer to the borders of the point of contact. In addition to that, several reports claim that Ukrainians were able to liberate this small town of Dorozhnyanka. And obviously right now nothing much is happening besides Ukrainians simply bringing their forces closer to this area. But the good thing about this is that the majority of Russian attention is now concentrated in the east, which allows Ukraine to execute its plan about relocation without resistance. But then, in addition to that, according to the mayor of Melitopol, Ivan Fedorov, Russian occupiers are trying to run as fast as possible from this city to Crimea. And yeah, here is something we all forgot about. Even though the majority of the action right now is happening in the east, the liberation of Kherson still continues. And right now I'll briefly talk about the increased activity of Ukrainians in this area, but first of all, allow me to show quickly a couple of videos from the same region. And first of all, here is the video from Novokakhovka. And right here we can see that Ukrainians were able to destroy a Russian military warehouse. And then if we go a little bit to the north, to Vysokopolye region, in this video we can see the counteroffensive actions of Ukrainians in this territory. And in this video from Arkhangelsk, we can see Ukrainians destroying Russian military vehicles. As you can see, even though Ukrainian progress in the south might not look as impressive as in the east, nevertheless, in the last couple of weeks, they were able to liberate approximately 500 square kilometers of its territory. And then we have several reports coming in, both from Ukraine and Russia, saying that Ukrainians are increasing its activity in Kherson. For example, even though this map does not reflect this yet, it looks like that Ukrainians were able to liberate Davidov Brid. The importance of liberating this city is that it is located on the right side of Ingulets River, which basically means, in case this is true, this gives Ukraine easier access to the east of this region. In addition to that, and it is already confirmed by this map, Ukrainians were able to liberate Bilohirka. But what's even more important is that according to some other reports, Russians are retreating from Snihirivka. And as you you can see, this city is basically located on the highway which leads directly to Kherson. And besides retreating from Snihirivka, it looks like that Russians are also retreating from Kiselyovka. And as you can see, this city is once again literally next to the highway which leads directly to Kherson. But wait, there is more. According to several reports, which is still not yet confirmed by this map, Ukrainians were able to liberate Alexandrivka. And if all of this is confirmed, is that Ukraine was able to retake Snihirivka, Kiselyovka and Alexandrivka, this brings us to a very beautiful picture. And I mean, I'm not implying anything right here, but I mean, okay, I think it is pretty obvious that Ukrainians are targeting to liberate Kherson. And before we talk about Russia practically begging for negotiations, here are just a couple last videos from the south. First of all, according to this video, we can see a Russian Black Sea Navy launching missiles against Ukraine. And it looks like that some of these attacks were against Voznesensk. And even though Russia continues to terrorize civilian objects, I think it is pretty obvious that Ukraine is vastly dominant across the entire country. And as a result of everything that has been happening in the last week, according to this report, Russian command suspends the dispatch of new military units to Ukraine. And one of the main reasons for this is that the vast majority of volunteers and conscripts, they simply refuse to fight in Ukraine. And I mean, hopefully, they finally started realizing that there is nothing waiting for them in Ukraine. But still, it is only according to the Kremlin itself that this special military operation is going in accordance to the plan. And even though this might be the official position of the Russian government itself, more and more higher government representatives start seeing the hopelessness in this entire situation. Such as, for example, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Sergei Lavrov himself, who I think for the very first time acknowledged that they want to resume peace talks with Ukraine. But you know what? It is now Ukraine that has all the rights to whether accept or decline these negotiations. And that's exactly what Zelensky did. He is saying that my country is not going to talk with anyone who is giving us ultimatums. And that the only time when Ukraine might consider peace talks again is when the entire Russian army leaves the territory of Ukraine. Which is also confirmed by the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Alexei Reznikov. But this time, Russia going back to its positions which they occupied before February 24th is no longer enough. And finally, in addition to all of that, according to the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Alexei Danilov, besides giving back Crimea and Donbass, Russia must be also fully demilitarized. And you know what? After Ukraine basically rejected all the potential future talks, the ex-president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, started once again threatening the country. He said that all these so-called ultimatums were just a warm-up before a real Russian demands. And that in case Ukraine still rejects them, I mean, that's okay, because Russia will definitely achieve the total surrender of Ukraine on its own terms. Good luck with this, Dmitry. Alright, and now I want to personally thank Doug Sinclair, Leonard Unger and Gustavo Gomez for becoming my most recent channel members. And if you want to support my work and unlock some benefits, please consider becoming my channel member as well. And if you want to see a full video of the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, receiving a call from President Zelensky, who for the very first time announced that Russia invaded his country, feel free to join my Discord. And yes, it's completely free. Thank you so much for your attention, stay safe, and see you tomorrow.